again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard.
Toughness of the SEC. And it's a clash with character and quality people as well as talent. Those guys have so much pride.
And I have to be better in every aspect of my game.
This is I Heart SEC
with Joe Bombo.
We need more dogs.
I Heart SEC. I'm your host, Joe Bombo. Make sure you follow us on all socials at Bombo ENT Group. Like, share, comment, because we're here for the engagement. And we like to get the perspectives of those that are interested in the SEC and those that have a unique perspective of the SEC. And the guy that I have here, I would say he definitely has a unique perspective of the SEC. Definitely is very informative. You can find him on social media at Tailgate Talks SEC. Also, he has his own YouTube channel where he does post content daily, and that's at Tailgate Talk SEC as well. It is Will Thomas. Will, I appreciate you for joining the pod this evening. It's been a crazy, wild SEC season so far, man. Just to start off, what has been your take on the things that have shaped the conference so far in the past couple of weeks?
I mean, just kind of looking top to bottom, it really feels like, given who's won, who's lost, and how the games have played out, there's really no like elite team or elite two teams in the conference. Like, it really feels like at this point, I could circle, I mean, Bama's probably out of it at this point, but like 4 or 5 teams that I would comfortably like say they could totally go win this conference, which is not something that we're used to seeing, right? We're used to seeing over the past 12 or 15 years, like Alabama's going to win the conference. Georgia's just going to win the conference. You can almost like feel that in October. But this year, it feels like it's so wide open, given like, Florida was supposed to be this up-and-coming young team. They just got popped by USF. Alabama got popped by FSU. You have all these top teams. Like Texas doesn't look awesome. Like all these teams look just like okay to good, as opposed to like this is such an incredible team, which makes me really, really excited for how the year's going to play out, because we have no idea who's going to make it to Atlanta.
That's the truth. That's the truth. And it's funny you say that. And before we get into our topics, I want to touch on that because like, one thing I was talking about in my pod last week, this year, though it's early, it could possibly take on the year of like 2027 and what they call the year of upsets, when a lot of teams went down. You had Appalachian beat Michigan. And my whole preference behind this is let's look at the college basketball season and the impact that the transfer portal and players being able to move around that are mature, how that impacted the college basketball scene. And to think that can't happen to college football, you would basically have your head in the sand over the past time. And so when you say that, it's definitely the truth. We don't know who's going to shine. All we can do is take everything for what it is, which is funny when you see some of these narratives as far as like with Arch, basically want to hand him the Heisman already and things of that nature. Yeah. So it's definitely something to look into. But I'm going to keep it on that end as far as Heisman, because we all know right now, one of the biggest games last week was Oklahoma, Michigan. When you had Johnny Mateer coming in from Washington State, and he's playing at Oklahoma. And things look good so far. They just came off a big win. But I have this ideology, and I know it's not conventional, and a lot of the things that I bring up aren't going to be conventional. I like to be outside of the box. But I'm going to share my initial thought, and I wanted to get your response to that, and then we'll dive into that a little bit more. But when I think about this Oklahoma team, and it's kind of interesting because it's like the UCLA Tennessee paradigm, where both of these teams are going to be tied to each other throughout the year because the quarterback swap. This is another situation where you basically have a new quarterback coming in, an old quarterback leave. And the narrative was Jackson Arnold didn't have the weapons to compete at Oklahoma. And now the narrative is Johnny Mateer's in Oklahoma. Oklahoma should be able to compete. So with that said, I had the idea, I said, if this is the case, there's no way that both of these teams can be good this year. What's your take on that?
I'm higher on Oklahoma than I am on Auburn, but I do have decently high hopes for both teams. I'll start with Oklahoma, which that's where you led off with. I mean, they like totally revamped their offense in the portal this offseason. And obviously watching Oklahoma last year, that was their problem, right? Like they could stop teams, but their offense just looked horrible. And part of that was due to injuries, part of it was due to roster construction. But now that, at least for right now, squad's totally healthy. You have Mateer back there. You have such a good tandem of receivers headlined by Deion Burks. And Jaden Ott, who came in from Cal at running back, I thought he was going to be like the main guy. The fact that he hasn't actually encourages me more about that offense because I know how good he is. And if he's not like the workhorse of that room, that whole room is clearly very talented and good to go. And defensively, I mean, you know what you're getting with a Brent Venables unit. Like he's got his players in. You know that he's one of the best, if not the best, defensive minds in the league. So obviously he's going to have the unit ready to go. And for Auburn, the Jackson Arnold thing, looking back last year, it was terrible. But all the context of it, that situation for him in Norman was so bad because the offense wasn't where it is now for Oklahoma, and there were so many injuries. I think Deion Burks missed a lot of time last year. So just everything went bad. The offensive line wasn't good. He was constantly rushed. He was a confidence problem. Now he's in Auburn, and you kind of saw it in that first game against Baylor. He looked like he was having so much more fun and so much more confident, just running around the field, zipping around. Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton at receiver for him were both incredible players. So I really do think both teams, Auburn and Oklahoma, got massive upgrades. Like I think Oklahoma, Mateer fits what they want to do a little bit better, and they have more talent around him. And for Auburn, Jackson Arnold just needed a new situation. And I do think that being on the plains, it's already helped him a lot. He looks a lot better. That Auburn offense looks a lot better. So I do think they're both going to be pretty good. I'm higher on Oklahoma. I think if one team makes a run either at Atlanta or the playoff, it's going to be Oklahoma in my mind. But I do think both teams will at least be better than they were last year and be a lot more competitive in the conference.
And that's crazy that you say that because when you look at one year to another, typically when you have a coach come in or you have a new quarterback come in, it takes some time. The roster has to turn over. Some players have to mature. But now in this the transfer portal era, when you're able to move from one season to another, the days where you can say, well, this team's going to need some time to grow, get the continuity together. It seems that these teams are able to bounce back instantly.
Yeah.
It's not a waiting process. So that's the mentality behind my whole preface. It's like, okay, so you have this Oklahoma team, and they had struggled on offense. The offensive line was not good. They didn't have receivers out there. They couldn't catch the ball. And yeah, granted, Burks was hurt, but he came back because he's actually thinking about transferring, but he's stuck with the team. They bring a whole new offense in with the offensive coordinator that comes in with Mateer. And then you have Oklahoma on this side where they bring in Eric Singleton. Not Oklahoma, Auburn, where they bring in Eric Singleton. Auburn was not a great team last year. We all seen it. They struggled on offense. They had the defense. The offensive line was pretty good, but all they were missing was the quarterback. Now they have their quarterback. It's going to be very intriguing to see these two teams play and see where they go afterwards. Because at this point in time, both of these teams are probably going to be on high scoring that game. They probably more than likely will be 3-0, 2-0 respectively. I believe both of them have a game this week. So, no, actually Oklahoma's off this week. So they'll come in 2-0. Auburn will be 3-0.
I think Oklahoma goes to Temple this week, actually. It's such a weird game.
Yes, facts. Yeah. And that's an interesting matchup because Oklahoma is playing Temple, and Temple's 2-0. So you got to think: are they going to be looking forward? This is what they call that sandwich type game where they can get caught looking forward.
Yeah, I'm not worried they're going to lose, but I'm definitely worried they look slow, and it looks like the first half this could be 10-7. Because why in the world are they going up to Philly to play at Temple this week? It makes no sense. But right after you beat Michigan at home, you have your former quarterback coming in next week. Such a weird spot. So I do think, ultimate sandwich spot. But I'm too excited about Oklahoma to really say like this could be scary. So I'm gonna not say that. But it's definitely a very strange spot.
It's funny you say that because I didn't even realize they are going to Philadelphia to play.
Yeah, it's not even a home game. They're going to Temple.
See a team like Oklahoma go play at Temple. Like, Do they even still pay you to play that
I
game?
don't know. It's a good question.
So Temple pays Oklahoma to come to their town. That's going to be pretty interesting, you know. Well, there's a lot of exciting games up ahead of us, man, on this week. And
Hmm.
one thing that we always do, we do a segment called Start, Cut, Bench. Typically, when you think of start, cut, bench, people throw out a couple players and they say, oh, I'm gonna cut this person or cut this celebrity, you know, and yada yada. But no, we do it a little bit different here. So each week, what we do is we basically take the SEC board. You have your start game, the game that everyone's going to be watching, that you're intrigued with, even if it's not everyone's not watching, the one that has your attention. Then you have your cut game, the game that we really think secondary about. Actually, we think not about it at all. That's not the game. That's the game that we'll just go to check out the box scores. Then you have your bench game. Of course, the game that's going to be your secondary game that I would say after this game goes on commercial, I go to this game. I hit the last button and go to this game. So I want you to join in on this, man, and let's have a little fun with this and just talk
Hmm.
about some of the games upcoming. And I'm gonna go with you first. Which game do you see on this slate that you would like to start for this afternoon?
I mean, the obvious answer, which I'll just rip off, is Georgia and Tennessee. I mean, college game day is going in there. Um, you get Kirby Smart versus Josh Heupel again, and I think this game is going to be. It's a really, really good matchup. It's a really good matchup because going into some of the deeper analytics of it, like Georgia is very good at converting opportunities when they get inside the opponent's 40, and Tennessee is not very good at stopping them.
Mhm.
And conversely, Georgia's defense is incredible. They're only averaging 3 points per opportunity when they get inside the 40. Tennessee's averaging giving up five. So I'm almost worried that Georgia's going to go get touchdowns and Tennessee's going to settle for field goals. But the counterpoint of that is, does Tennessee even need to get on the other side of the field? Because they have such an explosive passing game where they can score from just about any yard line. So it's kind of the battle between Georgia, who's going to ground and pound, keep marching down the field. You can't really stop them. They're just going to lean on you the entire game. Versus Tennessee, if they connect on three deep posts, they can undo everything that you've done offensively. So the matchup I think is really, really good. I saw a stat though, like Josh Heupel. I'm not sure if he scored like more than 21 on a Kirby Smart defense since he's been there, which is sort of wild to think about because of how good Heupel is at commanding an offense and
Yeah.
putting up points. But I mean, this game is going to be absolutely incredible. I think I predict Georgia to win this one on the road, maybe by a touchdown or so, just because of how that scoring opportunity matchup lines up. But this is by far one of the more entertaining games on the slate this weekend.
Okay. When I look at this Georgia Tennessee game, I definitely agree will be an intriguing matchup. But I'm not, like I said, I was talking earlier. I'm not impressed with Georgia quite yet.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the things that has been the most surprising is their lack of turnovers.
Hmm.
They played basically two teams that they should have steamrolled, and they've
Hmm.
only had one turnover in these two games. You
Hmm.
know, and the interception that they got was a pretty cupcake interception. It wasn't a guy making a play. It was just a bad throw right to the I believe it might have been on a tip pass actually. So it wasn't even like the guy actually made a play on the ball. So that's very interesting to me to see how this Georgia team is actually going to punch. Well, I'm not going to say punch up, but how they're going to step up to the SEC competition, facing a team like this. Because we even seen last week Saturday, they got stopped on the 1 yard line. Austin P. You know, me, I call him Austin PU, but but that's neither here nor there. So I definitely agree with you. That's going to be an intriguing matchup. But me, I got a different one coming for you.
Hmm.
The game that I'm going to start this week is the 7:30 game. That's Texas A&M
Hmm.
at Notre Dame. I think this game is going to be somewhat like that Miami Notre Dame game. I think that it's going to be a huge platform for Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M has a little revenge on their mind after losing last year. Um, and to throw it out there, I honestly think this will be the coming out party for Marcel Reed. I looked at his Heisman odds. He's not one of the guys that they're talking about right now. I believe he's
Hmm.
like 12th to 15th on that list. I really think he's going to have a hell of a performance. Might even be better than that Carson Beck had against Notre Dame's defense. And I think once we leave this game, Notre Dame will have an L in their column, or two L's in their column, and we will begin to talk a lot more about Texas A&M, Marcel Reed, and how much of an impact Casey Concepcion has had coming over from NC State and joining this program.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. That game's going to be incredible. I kind of had a similar read where I do think A&M's going to be able to score a lot of points because of their balanced attack. With Concepcion and Mario Craver at receiver, you have Ruben Owens,
Yes.
Le'Veon Moss right behind Marcel Reed in the backfield. I think they'll be able to score. I I wanted to pick A&M so bad. I'm just worried about them defensively too because the fact that A&M's given up 22 and 24 to both of their cupcake games at home, I'm worried about, can Notre Dame put up 30, 31, 35? And that seems like a number that I think is hard for A&M to eclipse on the road. So right now I had like 28, 24 Notre Dame, but I'll definitely be looking for A&M. I'll be cheering for them to win. And it would not shock me at all if they're able to pull it off. My biggest question mark was, can they stop CJ Carr and Notre Dame's offense?
I definitely agree with you. Yeah, they haven't blown people out the water. They've been averaging around at 30 points. But their offenses seem to be humming. And I think once they step up to that level, and
Yeah.
I feel like maybe they've been holding something back because they knew they had this Notre Dame games circle. Mike Elko's first year, they didn't perform well. So I think they want to get back, and I think this will be the game that we'll start to talk about Texas A&M. And like you said, this conference is pretty open right now.
hmm
You come out and you get a win against the number 8 team, and it could change the whole trajectory of who's going to be at the top and who's going to be the team that's going to surprise some. So let's go to your cut game. We'll save the bench game for last. The cut game, the game that we don't even care about. So let's go ahead and get it out the way and not harp on it too much. What do you have on as the cut game for this week?
Yeah, so rather than going with like UTEP versus Texas, I'm going with Arkansas and Ole Miss because Ole Miss offensively, Austin Simmons has not looked that good. He's got 3 touchdowns to 4 picks. I do believe he has all the talent in the world, but just starting as such a young quarterback in this league is so hard to do. So the offense for Ole Miss hasn't necessarily looked like it's all the way there. Arkansas, I actually am pretty excited about offensively. You got Taylor Green, Mike Washington Jr., just some really good playmakers on that side of the ball. But this kind of feels like an offense in Ole Miss that's still trying to figure out how they want to run it, and an Ole Miss in Arkansas, an offense in Arkansas, excuse me, that it has to go on the road for the first time against a good defense. This just feels like not the most entertaining game that you'll get, but Ole Miss's games in the past have been like 42 to 45. Let's have some fun. This one, I'm not sure it profiles that same way. So for that reason, I've got Arkansas and Ole Miss as one that I'm definitely not going to have on given the other games at that time. I'll just catch up with it through Twitter.
Damn, I like that you said that because that's not a game that most people will look at and say, "Oh, well, SEC teams, boo-hoo, who cares about that?" But I do like that, because Austin Simmons hasn't looked great.
Yeah.
He didn't even throw a touchdown last week, and I believe that they're going to look to lean on his legs a lot more because the play, it's like he's not seeing it. He's not seeing what he's supposed to be seeing out there. So I definitely agree with you. The game that I'm going to cut is the team that they played last week, and that's Kentucky. Of course, I was looking at Mississippi State, Alcorn, but I honestly believe with that game and Mississippi State, the 2 teams they played, and that being sort of a more competitive game, even this Alcorn game, they're going to be able to do whatever they want to do. They should be able to. So it's going to be interesting to see how do they perform against lesser competition. Unlike some of the other teams we seen last week when they played lesser competition, they did not do what they were supposed to do. So it's going to be interesting to see in Jeff Levy's second year how that team performs. So I'm not going to say that, but I'm definitely looking at Kentucky and Eastern Michigan because, one, Eastern Michigan's 0-2. Kentucky should take care of this team, should dominate. The offensive play from Kentucky has not been stellar. It has not been impressive. Zach Calzada has not been. Well, actually, I'm not even going to say it because he wasn't that impressive at Texas A&M. So, I'm actually down on Kentucky this year. They're one of my 2 teams that I have going under their win total. So, yeah, just to say the least, I'm not really interested in what Kentucky has to do. All I want to know is when I look up at the scoreboard or look at the box score at the end of that game, that they have a loss on their column. That's the main thing that's gonna, that's the main stock that I'm gonna take within this team for the upcoming. Yeah, that's all that matters for me.
Show me
right
1
now.
and 2. Show me 1 and 2 on Saturday night. That's all I got.
But they should win this game. They should beat Eastern Michigan. You know, if Eastern Michigan comes up and grabs these guys, oh my gosh, Mark Stoops' seat is going to get hotter than faster than Jeremy Pruitt, Billy
Yeah.
Napier's seat. Look, I called him Jeremy Pruitt.
That's all you need to know right there is that we're confusing with Pruitt. But yeah, I totally agree with you about Kentucky. I was low on them coming into this year. I didn't love Calzada. I liked how experienced he was, but clearly that's all he's got is age. He has not looked very good passing the ball. I do like Kentucky's O line, but that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you give your quarterback time if you can't hit receivers. So I'm very low on Kentucky also. I mean, yeah, they should win this game against Eastern Michigan. I think Dante Dowdle will be able to just kind of run through them. But yeah, I'm very low on Kentucky. Would be pretty funny to see them go 1-2 after this week, but we'll see what happens.
Oh my God, that would definitely be something that we'll be talking about next week for sure. We know it's going to be run heavy. You know,
Yeah.
McGowan's a pretty good running back, and we know that they're going to run the ball heavy. So, I mean, yeah, we like to see the pigskin spun and thrown up and down the field. The last thing I want to do is watch Kentucky just pound the ball into the ground against Eastern Michigan, to say the least. But I'm here with Will Thomas. You can follow him on YouTube at Tailgate Talk at SEC, Tailgate Talk SEC, also on X at Tailgate Talk SEC. The guy's very knowledgeable on the sport, as you can see. Unfortunately, he's a Florida fan, so he might be going through a little bit right now.
This is why I'm picking on Kentucky now. I got to put it somewhere. I gotta do something to fucking play.
You got to find someone, There's always a team that's doing worse than you that you can say, well, I guess we're not them. But just to touch on that, man, like everyone thinks, I believe, LSU's a 9.5 favorite. I think that
Mm.
this will be a game. This isn't going to be a pushover. I think Florida State. I think that might have been a blessing in disguise for this team, Florida, just to get that loss out the way. I think this will be a pretty intriguing game when they take the field. Um, and speaking of that, I guess I'll go ahead and take that over because I'll start with my bench game. That's actually my bench game of the week. LSU, Florida. You know, with the fact that they took that loss, and Florida's going to need this win because they have no easy road ahead of them. So LSU coming in after how they performed against Louisiana Tech wasn't that impressive. Probably a little fat and sassy, feeling themselves after beating Clemson. Now you got to basically recalibrate yourself and get ready for SEC play. I'm definitely intrigued by this matchup. I believe it's a 7:30 game.
Hmm.
So it's going to be under the lights in Death Valley, one of the real Death Valley. We've established that now. So that is how I'm feeling about this game. I would like to see DJ Lagway make up for some of the things he did. I didn't like some of, he's always had that issue with throwing from a solid base. And he
Hmm.
started to do that a little bit late in the game. I like to see him patch that up because this is a pretty sound LSU secondary. Yeah, they brought in transfers, but they have some solid pieces. And he cannot be lackadaisical with the ball. They'll need the control, the possessions, and make sure that they're not making mistakes and taking advantage of every single possession they have on offense. What is your take on that game coming up?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing with the DJ Lagway thing, he looks like exactly what he is. He's a young guy who just hasn't played that much football. And all the injuries in the offseason that kept him out of practices, that's what's showing on the field right now, right? Because he looks a little off mechanically. He's missing a couple of throws that we just didn't see him miss last year when he was kind of in the rhythm of things. And in terms of what you said about the blessing in disguise losing that game to USF, I don't want to compare this football team to Florida's basketball team this year, but I'm about to. But like I was actually at the game when Florida went to Athens and they lost that game to a bad Georgia team. And that was the last game that that basketball team lost all year. And they dominated everybody else. Could that be the same thing where, Florida loses again that they shouldn't? And I don't think Florida's going to win the championship, but like, does it unlock something else within them where they can go be a better version of themselves where they're not sloppy? They don't take any games for granted. They execute better. I think it's totally possible. But with the amount of mistakes that they made at home against USF, does going on the road to Death Valley at night, is that really a place where it gets fixed? Like, I do think they'll be less stupid. If someone else spits on a guy, they've got to dismantle the whole program this week. But I mean, LSU's defense, I do think is incredible. It's crazy fast. It's crazy physical. You mentioned their secondary. And as long as Florida is just competitive, that's going to be enough to kind of like, okay, just calm down. Like if they have a lead in the second half at any point, just like, okay, calm down. We're not that bad. It's fine. If they get blown out of the water, that's where this thing can kind of start to go off the rails. So then you mentioned you go to Miami next week. Then you get a bye before Texas comes in. Like 1-5 is not impossible on the schedule if this game goes off the rails. So bare minimum, you've just got to be competitive. You got to look sharper, less dumb mistakes. And I think you're totally right. Florida and LSU games, these are always weird. This can totally be close. It can totally be competitive. So we'll see how it goes. I actually am starting to kind of come around to like, okay, like, come on, we got a game to win this weekend. Let's go. It's not all doom and gloom. We gotta play and go out there. I'm gonna be at home, but I mean, yeah, I am excited for the game overall. I do have LSU winning, but I would not be surprised at all if it's pretty close.
Hey, well, if they go 1-5, I know my parlay would definitely be off the rails because I definitely have Florida. I have Florida actually winning more. I think I had them around 8 or 9 games, but
I
that's
had that
actually I
too.
had them beating LSU too.
Hmm.
You know, and I want to say one thing before we go to your bench game.
Hmm.
USF is surprisingly good this year. The
They really, yeah,
best thing Florida can do is hope that this team is better than we think. They go in and beat Miami
yeah.
and they go on to run the table in the American Conference because then it might not seem like as bad as a loss as we're making it right now.
Hmm.
So I'll just leave it at that. What's your bench game for the week?
My bench game is Vandy at South Carolina. I
Okay.
mean, Vanderbilt. Yeah, so I'm in Nashville, and when I just go outside, I can just like hear the buzz around Vandy's program. Like Clark Lee really is building something at Vanderbilt. It's legit. This is no longer Vanderbilt like it was 5 years ago. And going to their game last week, I mean, they were down double digits at halftime at Virginia Tech, and then won the second half 34-0. They outgained Virginia Tech by 300 yards over the last 30 minutes. Like that's just nothing that you would ever see from Vanderbilt, even in their cupcake games a few years ago. I think that Diego Pavia versus Norris Sellers is one of the sleepier like best quarterback matches we might get all year. It's just two
Hmm.
guys who love to win, who are absolute gamers and want the ball in their hands when it matters most. And for Carolina, their offense has looked very, very slow. In that Virginia Tech game, they didn't have much offense after their first drive, that touchdown drive. And last week against South Carolina State, they only had 17 points offensively because they had two punt returns and a scoop and score to sort of pad that number, but they didn't score a whole lot. And the reason that I have this game as my bench I want to flip to is that I think there's been an overreaction a little bit to what I just said, to Carolina's slow start on offense. Oh, it's Vanderbilt coming in. When has Vanderbilt ever been less than a touchdown dog at a ranked team? That tells you all you need to know about how this game is going to be close. Vanderbilt could absolutely walk in there and win this game. And I think it's going to be an up and down the field sort of thing where just Sellers and Pavia go punch for punch. And it might just be who has the ball last. I'm actually very, very excited for this game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Yeah, I was teetering between that because both teams, like I didn't expect Vanderbilt to come out and dominate like they did.
Yeah.
I didn't see much from Virginia Tech against South Carolina. Kyron Jones seems to be regressing versus
Hmm.
progressing. So I didn't see much from that team that made me say, oh, well, they're going to dominate, but I expected them to have a bounce back. So to see Vandy go in there and then basically skunk them in the second half was quite impressive, especially
Yeah.
what they did on the ground. They did it on the ground. They didn't go over the top. They literally just bludgeoned that team and ran straight through them. And especially when it comes to big boy ball and what you want to play in the SEC, you have to be able to run the ball. So I
Hmm.
definitely agree. They were able to do that, man. And it's going to be interesting because I didn't know if Vandy was going to be the team that they were last year. I figured that might have been a flash in the pan, but I did. They were a team that you didn't want to second guess. So the fact that they're coming out and they're showing their muscle that they had last year, 2-0, it's going to be interesting to see in a couple of weeks when they do play Alabama if this is a competitive game. Because you already said it, you feel like Alabama's out of the race, which I found quite surprising. But this is going to be exciting college football season we have ahead of us. Is there
Definitely.
anything else that you're looking forward to this week before we end this?
I mean, Wisconsin and Alabama, I'm looking for Alabama to dominate again. I should not have said that Bama was out of it. That was a misspeak by me. I do think that they're obviously just way lower on the pedestal than they were, but they can totally come back because, like I said, this is an open conference. So no, I don't think anybody's really out of it, to be honest with you. So yeah, I mean that Alabama game, I'm looking for them to come back out and just dominate another inferior opponent. Now, obviously, Wisconsin is better than ULM, but it's an attitude thing. They didn't have any attitude against FSU. They were just lazy. They got rolled over. Then ULM, if you shut out a team and beat them by 70, your mind was in the right place. It doesn't matter who it is. So
Yeah.
I'm looking for them to come back out and do that again. Because they beat Wisconsin on the road last year, get them back at your place, show it wasn't a fluke, do it again. And just sort of back to the Vandy thing just one more time. If they beat South Carolina, their next two games are Georgia State and Utah State at home. So if they win this game, they will be going into Tuscaloosa 5-0 and hopefully ranked, which would just
Yeah.
be an incredible matchup for all the storylines for that. Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to Vanderbilt down the line, honestly, and just more this week, the Alabama game. And we talked about everything else that I think is going to be incredible. But I mean, even though it's not a full conference slate yet, this week looks really, really fun.
Yeah.
Even if it's allegedly a sleepy week, man, there's so much to look forward to.
And it's funny how this came together because we didn't talk about this and we literally hit on almost every game.
Yeah.
Where that just shows you the perspective and how we're seeing things different, but they're all
Exactly.
intriguing games. So is this not a week to sleep on for sure? But if you would leave your socials, where will you be? What kind of content are you putting out this week before we get out of here?
Yeah, I'll just be putting out a bunch of preview content for each game. I do some betting content also, which you'll find on my pages, and just doing a lot of looking forward to another good weekend of football. I'll be reacting to the headlines that come out this week. You can find me at Tailgate Talk SEC on Twitter. Also, ThoMasmp4 is my personal page, where I'll do more just commentary and less of this videos talking to a camera. So I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and I just love talking about this sport.
All right, that's Will Thomas at Tailgate Talk SEC. We'll definitely be having this conversation. I enjoyed it, man, and we might have to go long form. If you need me for anything, please reach out. Guys, make sure you follow him on his social medias. Make sure you check him out. This is I Heart SEC, and appreciate you guys for tuning in.
There will be no other place to be. We're in the SEC. There's no better place to be. I SEC. That's the best I could be. I hard SEC.